Keep in mind, one of the biggest things that really helped me was pre-signing listing agreements. Do you at least feel confident that I can do the job for you, right? Do you feel confident in me and my abilities to get your home sold? Yes. So the only thing we're in question about is the time and possibly the price. Yes. Okay, great. So what I'd like to do here, and what I've done in the past, is that let's sign a listing agreement today with a blank date, starting date, and a blank price. But at least this way I know that we can work together, because what I'd like to do, because based on this commitment to me, I'm going to give you my commitment by also starting to work on trying to find you buyers for when you're prepared. So that this way I can be so prepared for when you're ready to go. I might have 2 or 3 or 4 buyers lined up, ready to go, who are ready to buy the house right away at a fantastic price. Because what I don't want to do is then have a conversation maybe even 30 days beforehand where I'm, and all of a sudden now I have to do 10 times more work in 30 days versus what I can do between now and then. Does that make sense?
100%.
And I'm saying, does that make sense? Not only to you, but to them, right? Like, so like, so does that make sense? And then try to get them to sign the agreement ahead of time. This way, like, okay, I have a locked up listing for May, right? Or even saying something along the lines. So just to clarify, so if you got an offer, let's just say they wanted 900 or $1 million or whatever the heck they wanted, like, just to clarify, so if you got $1 million today, you wouldn't take it, right?
Right.
Just putting that power back, taking the power back from them. Because a lot of the time, like, oh, well, we're not really ready to move. I'm like, okay, well, if someone was ready to pay you $1 million and then close around your schedule, would you be totally against taking that type of offer? Well, then what's the reason of not being on the market? Just because houses are also taking 90 days or 6 months to sell anyways, right? So it's just, put yourself in a different position. But that's the residential languaging. And then for commercial, slightly different, but along the same lines. If you're working with someone and they say like, hey, like, I'm not really ready to move yet, but I do want to sell it sometime this year or whatever, and they want to list it, that is the plan of listing. You can have someone have the same conversation and say like, listen, having the property on the market does not mean that the property is going to sell by X, right? Like, because it's like, let's just clarify. You want to list just want to clarify. So what's your time frame look like? Oh, I want to sell it by July. So just to clarify, at least what I'm understanding, you'd like to close on this property by July. Yes. It's like, okay, well, typically, just to give you some reference, right? It takes between 30 days and 180 days, sometimes a year, to even get an offer that makes sense on a commercial property these days, because interest rates are so much higher. And then on top of that, it takes somewhere between 60 and 120 days to close. So even if you listed the property today, we might end up closing next summer, right? So it's like putting that into perspective a little bit and then explaining more of a timeline. They start, because like one of the best things I always did is I took a notebook or a piece of paper and I had like a start time and an end time on a timeline and say, when would you like for this transaction to be done and over with? And you have a check in your bank account. And then they say August, July, whenever. And you're like, okay, let's back things up. So then based on this timeline and this goal being achieved, we need to actually have the property on the market. And it really puts things in perspective for people where like most of the time, obviously they like to be in control, but they're never really explained these times of timeline. So they just go, oh, I want to sell it in August, but that means I get to start in August. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? So it's bringing them back more to a reality of like, this is actually what it looks like versus like what you possibly think it looks like. Just that on that reference. So that's one. Two, let's talk about more the adjustment and schedule real quick. Because what I'm also thinking, based on at least what you're expressing to me, what time are you roughly starting making your calls every day?
When the morning I start at like 9 to 11.
Okay.
So I usually start right after 9.
Okay. So what I'd like for you to do, and how often are you doing a second session, by the way?
It kind of depends on the day, a couple of days a week. I'm used to calling in the morning. The morning session I haven't been as consistent with it. The afternoon, because I'm used to calling from 3 to 5.
I see what you're saying. So what I would tell you is this.
So the morning session, I usually start around 9.
You start around 9. Okay. So what I would say to you is this. Going forward, I see this as two different ways. Obviously, depending on what's worked for you already, I can understand. What I'd like to try to get you to, at least the type of scheduling that I typically say, which is the same thing almost every single time and the same thing that my agents follow, is that from 8 a.m. to, this is exactly what I teach, right? So at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're doing a team meeting with yourself, or I'd say a team meeting with whatever organization you're with, right? So team meeting at 8 o'clock. This meeting, you're going to go through 3 things. You're going to go through red flags, which is things that you need to handle immediately, right? These are a termination letter was just sent, an attorney's a moron and they said something they shouldn't have said, right? A client's freaking out, whatever needs to be done. That's a red flag. Like this is like, oh shit, I need to have this done today. The cold calling is secondary, okay? Second thing you're going to do is pipeline review. So this is reviewing every single hot lead, saying like, okay, what needs to move this hot lead to a deal? Every single deal that's in attorney review, under contract, even past clients that like, make, hey, like I have to call that guy. Like I should make sure I check in with that person because maybe I can get more referrals, right? Anything pipeline review. Last thing is a to-do list, but I do a to-do list a little bit different than most people, which is saying like, okay, if I wanted to hypothetically just say, get 3 appointments today, if that's your goal, which obviously in the residential world would be a wonderful thing, I would set up everything for my to-do list to make that a success. Who are 10 people I can call to get 3 appointments set today? So like, or in the commercial world, one thing I'll say is like, what are 3 properties that I can submit a letter of intent on, right? Submit an offer on, so that I can get it. Like, I want more deals in attorney review, or I want to submit LOIs. Like whatever is going to get you one step closer to doing more deals and putting more properties under contract is what you want to get to, right? So whatever creates that success, I like to have on my to-do list. Like for me, obviously I want to get my minimum goal every day, including myself and my team, is 2 accepted offers every day. In order for me personally to get there, I need to be submitting an insane amount of offers from true buyers, right? Like from a buyer who's seen a property, who's ready to, proceed on a deal, right? In order for me to do that, I need to figure out like 2 or 3 or 4 items that lead up to that. So it's like, how can I schedule 3 tours today? How can I submit 3 or 4 or 5 offers today? How can I, in deals that I've already been negotiating, how can I call them up and then continue that negotiation and get one step closer to getting that agreed contract today? So anything that leads in that position, or it gets me one step closer, I'll put on my to-do list. Like that's it. Like that's the highest dollar productive activity that I can do, right? Above everything. All of that, I now give myself 30 minutes to do all of it. So everything that's on my red flags, everything that's on my to-do list or from pipeline, I have 30 minutes to handle all of it. That immediately goes to the next thing I'm doing today is just handling 100% of that task list. So that's handling all my red flags. If anything from the pipeline review, send an email, call a person, a attorney, seller, buyer, whatever, gets done, as well as anything from the checklist that needs to be done immediately, like submit letter of intent, try to set up a showing, I'll shoot a bunch of text messages, make a bunch of calls. I want that done in 30 minutes. Because by 8:30, 8:45, latest 9 o'clock in the morning, I want to be clear-headed. Everything else has been handled. I've already checked a bunch of boxes, and now I just get to rip the phones for the next 4 hours. So instead of taking a break at 11 o'clock, I want you to try to push that. Now, again, sometimes for dietary reasons or other reasons, but like I personally don't eat until like somewhere around 1:30.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So awesome. So like take that time from 9 o'clock till 1 p.m. to be on the phones, 4 hours a day. Because then the entire rest of your day is going to look like one of a few things. One, you can of course pivot back. If you didn't get any leads and you don't have any appointments, that should be just a straight calling day. Because there's nothing else more important other than lead generation, right? Now, at 1 o'clock, you can also pivot, right? So if you have appointments and you have errands you have to run and all that kind of stuff, which, look, I mean, everyone has a life. I understand that things come up. But keeping in mind, like, if you didn't generate any leads and you have no appointments, there's nothing else better you should be doing than trying to get to 40 or 50 leads this month, which then, in turn, at 15% ratio, should get you to 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, 8 appointments set this month. At 1 o'clock, I also, again, this is more residential minded. At 1 o'clock, I guess for residential commercial, I'll say kind of both. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock is follow-up time every day. So you like being on the phone from 3 to 5 or whatever it is, that's fine. I would just highly recommend that eat lunch. I eat lunch when I do this too. Like, it doesn't really matter. But while I'm eating lunch and doing my thing, I just have all my follow-up calls in front of me. I'm making my calls. I'm eating at the same time, whatever. I'm just like, I'm multitasking. I'm sending out text messages. I'm doing whatever I need to be doing to follow up with leads to try to set appointments. Same thing for the commercial world. I'm following up with people trying to get more offers, underwrite more deals, do whatever I can to kind of move the needle a little bit. Obviously, majority of deals are done through follow-up. So if you need to, take 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and spend 2 hours in follow-up. Biggest mistake a lot of people make is that they might do a great job at lead gen, but they absolutely suck at follow-up and they don't do any follow-up, and then they all of a sudden are just kind of prospecting to prospect and they never end up doing any deals. If the only thing you did better and worked on was 2 metrics, which is 1, your leads go from 20 to 40. And the second thing you did was that you did an insane job at your follow-up. You will do probably double the amount of business you did with almost not fixing anything else. You could not fix your listing presentation. You could not work on anything anything additional. Just doubling the amount of time that you spend on lead gen so you can get from 20 to 40 and enhancing your skill sets there, right? Maybe even get to 50 or 60. Keeping the same 15% ratio for, when it comes to appointment set, you will still then double or triple the amount of leads you do. Or deals you do.